A storm is upon us.
The enormity of it was intense and dark and horrific.
Thousands are victims.
It felt like I was hit by the side, just blindsided by a truck.
Homes destroyed.
When I come home, it's empty. Everything's empty and cold and dark, and it feels awful behind the walls.
Families devastated. Society changed.
It will reach out and touch every family in some way.
In the shadows lurks an issue that has been identified as the most heinous, harmful, and destructive problem of our time. Pornography is all around us. It is often difficult or embarrassing to talk about, but growing research shows its prevalence and devastating impact. I'm Jane Clayson Johnson. We'll devote the next 30 minutes to bringing this dark topic out in the light.
There is still this outdated thinking that pornography is harmless. This is a form of free speech that needs to be protected at all costs.
According to the National Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families, 47% of families in the United States say pornography is a problem in their home.
We have to get better at bringing it out in the light without the shame and the judgment and the condemnation and the I'm glad it's him and not me kind of thing, because pretty much it's affecting all of us.
While centerfolds constituted pornography of the past, the internet has launched pornography into a new realm. Every second, more than 28,000 people are looking at pornography on the internet. Every 39 minutes, a new pornographic video is made in the United States. Pornography is a $97 billion industry worldwide. Increasing evidence is linking violent-themed pornography to aggressive behaviors among those who view it. Clinical research shows people consume pornography as a way of coping with stress and emotionally challenging situations. Others use it for self-gratification, as a means for excitement, and to satisfy sexual curiosity. Experts are trying to better understand the motivation behind pornography use that becomes so persistent. It leads to destroyed careers, marriages, and families.
Multiple studies have shown the same changes occur in the brain, whether it's to a drug addiction or to a natural addiction. When addiction hits, it turns off that judgment part of the brain, and they don't care anymore. They can't see it.
While many mental health professionals disagree about the definition of pornography addiction, they do agree that excessive pornography use is unhealthy.
The damage is felt most often in marriage and family relationships. Dr. Jill Manning, a licensed marriage and family therapist, has done extensive research on how pornography impacts women especially, whose husbands are users.
In North America, women have a strong need to feel chosen, to feel like they are the only one, that they are the chosen one in the eyes of their spouse. And that becomes shattered very quickly when she realizes that he has been eroticizing and looking at images or interfacing with other women for a long period of time.
Pornography goes to the very heart of what a woman is or wants to be, and shuns it and pollutes it and degrades it.
In the modern world, the effects of pornography are far-reaching.
Every time you go onto a website, every time you click, every time you make a search, every time you order a DVD or a pay-per-view, you are contributing to this large global web of supply and demand. You are contributing to an abusive, evil web of oppression and slavery and prostitution.
I think the days of sitting back and saying, it's no big deal, it's not going to reach out and touch my family, those days are gone. And we live in a new reality, in a new world. We have to prepare for it. We don't wring our hands. We need to roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Researchers say one of the most powerful ways to get to work is to talk about this important issue, as uncomfortable as that may be. More powerful than any statistics are the personal stories of how pornography impacts people, our brothers, sisters, neighbors, and friends.
I was about 6, and I remember very distinctly when I found it. I knew that it wasn't right, but I looked at it, and it was something that was so different than anything I'd ever experienced before.
Steven Croshaw never forgot those feelings. Eventually, his dependence on pornography turned his family's life upside down.
When this happened, I thought, what has happened to my life, and what am I supposed to do now?
While the effects of pornography vary, all of the women we spoke with felt tremendous betrayal by their partner's obsession. Many said their dreams of a faithful, monogamous relationship were shattered. Rhyll Croshaw's husband, Steven, was addicted to pornography. It impacted their marriage for more than 30 years.
Almost immediately, I felt like there was a disconnect in our relationship. And then I thought it was just that I had such huge romantic expectations that they could never be fulfilled.
I wanted it to be good. I wanted us to be close, but I don't feel like I was available.
He was always kind and never mean or blaming or any of that with me. And so I determined that my issues were mine, and that because of my low self-esteem, that I just had to improve myself.
But no matter what Rhyll did, the relationship with her husband remained distant.
I really felt like that marriage would satisfy all of my desire for sexual needs and satisfaction, and so I went into it with a feeling that that was going to be the case, and that was not the case.
Unable to connect with her husband, Rhyll kept busy at home with their 5 young children.
I really threw myself into being an intentional mother, and that was my goal, to be the best mom that I could be.
Meanwhile, Steven Croshaw continued to find success at work. Business frequently took him on the road. Soon, viewing pornography escalated to visiting adult establishments and eventually to hiring prostitutes. 13 years into his marriage, the burdens of living a double life proved too heavy to bear. And one day, Steven just walked out of work, determined to tell Rhyll the truth.
I told her essentially everything. And for me, I can remember it being a lifting experience for me.
I remember just sitting in the car and just crying quietly, and felt really devastated.
The Croshaws went to their religious leader, confident that his counsel would help curb the behavior. It helped for a time, but within 3 years, Steven had turned to pornography again.
I began to run from my life.
Steven quit his job, believing that if he stopped traveling and stayed close to his family, he could stop. He could not. Just a few years later, Rhyll learned again that trust had been broken.
I cried bitter tears. I remember being on my face, just sobbing and thinking, something's really wrong here.
I was very ashamed of the fact that I hadn't stayed on the pathway of recovery, that I had slipped again.
That second betrayal brought out a resiliency in Rhyll to help her husband and to keep her family together. She sought out books and counseling from a professional therapist who validated her feelings.
I said, I don't feel like my husband loves me. And he said, he doesn't. And to most women, that would be a dagger to the heart. But for me, it was, thank you for being honest. Now I understand that. And then he said, he can't love you. He's not capable of it. He has an addiction. He can't love anybody.
Rhyll found strength in therapy and unexpectedly in her personal reading of history. While studying about pioneers who had journeyed west in the 1800s, the story of one woman in particular resonated with her.
There was a woman who had carried her sick husband in her handcart with her children along all the way across the plains. And I related to this woman. And I thought, I have the strength with the Lord's help to carry my sick husband.
But despite Rhyll's hard work, it wasn't enough. In 2005, following what Steven calls a spiritual experience, he came forward a third time, admitting to Rhyll and now their 7 children that he had again slipped back into immoral behavior.
So on that Sunday morning when he told me, I didn't even cry. I suppose that I had a few tears, just softly, but on our front lawn, I turned my hands over and looked to heaven and said, take him. I've done everything I can. I don't know what else to do. And I know this is not mine anymore.
When I made the decision that I would come forward, I knew that I had made it in my heart because the feelings that I had changed. They changed from fear to hope. And they changed from the attitude of can't do to can do, and that I must do.
Coming up, an important decision for Rhyll in her quest to mend a broken heart.
I can choose to stay or I can choose to leave.
Steven and Rhyll Croshaw's road to recovery following decades of his excessive pornography use has not been easy.
It was impossible for me to do this on my own. I had to be willing to be open. I had to be willing to be honest. I had to be willing to do the work.
Feelings of anger, sadness, pain, and fear have been felt through the years in the Croshaw home, but so has a sense of hope. Following the 3rd admission of betrayal, a pornography addiction which led to hiring prostitutes, the Croshaws received a symbolic painting from one of their sons.
In the picture gently up the stream, there are 2 individuals. And I have imagined that one is a woman and the other is a man. And it's my husband and I. And we're not in the same canoe. We are in separate canoes, but we are headed in the same direction.
Up that stream, Rhyll says, a beautiful beckoning light. Below, rapids, rocks, and an unexpected drop. For Rhyll, knowing that she and her husband are each on a journey of recovery brings her peace.
I don't have to control. I don't have to work 110% all the time. I just have to gently paddle my own canoe. And thankfully, he's gently paddling his own canoe.
And the picture hangs next to my dressing table, and I see it every day. And I look at it. And I think about what it means.
Determined to sustain their own recovery and help those in the same process, the Croshaws started an organization to support those impacted by pornography. Rhyll says she still occasionally struggles with feelings of inadequacy and fears that the pornography will return. But Rhyll says she now surrenders that fear to a higher power and lives in the present, optimistic that after 37 years of marriage, she and her husband are both standing on higher ground.